Hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. It's exciting to see people coming into today's webinar. I am Mike. I'm one of the co-founders here at Hopper HQ. You can see our guest is here, but I'm not gonna ruin the introduction just yet because I can see the numbers cranking up on the attendee panel there. So I'm just going to give it 30 seconds as a few more people click in there. A few house rules as we get going. Rule number one, there are no rules. I don't know, I didn't plan to say that, you might have guessed. Rule number two, if you want to chat to us, please do get involved. There's multiple ways to speak to us throughout this webinar. If you've been on any of our webinars before, we're mainly here to have a little bit of fun, get as much insight as we possibly can, and try and learn and develop and grow all together. And the way we can do that best is chat in the chat, ask any questions you have in the Q&A. Myself and Ollie will change the conversation to adapt to the questions that you're asking. And if not, we have the absolutely wonderful Isabel on the other side of the webinar magic, who will also be answering any questions as they come up as well. We've got a few polls coming your way as well. So the numbers are looking like they're settling a little bit. So now is the time for me to introduce, firstly myself, I'm Mike Vander, I'm one of the co-founders of Hopper HQ. And then secondly, and most importantly, our fantastic guest, Mr. Ollie Hills. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ollie.
Too kind, what a welcome.
Oh, that's what you get when you come here, Ollie. Roll out the red carpet as best we can. Now, we can see these fantastic people here, and everybody has subscribed to try and get to the bottom of the question we are here to answer. That question is, of course, TikTok for business. Is this a passing trend, or is this a future of social? Now, to set the scene, I am one of the co-founders of Hopper HQ. I love social media. And TikTok is probably the first development in social media that's made me feel like an old man. And Ollie and I have actually been friends for years. We've known each other for a really long time. When I saw that he'd started and then become an absolute master in TikTok marketing, I thought there's no way that we can't have this conversation as publicly as we can. So I can educate myself and hopefully we can share some insight. So without further ado, Ollie Hills is the founder and CEO of Nonsensical, which is a TikTok agency. When I first met Ollie years and years ago, he was becoming a master in new media, working in really interesting ways, using social media and other forms for localized news, and has picked up a real strong knack of being able to identify, understand, master, and commercialize different social media platforms. So I hope I haven't stolen too much from your introduction there, Ollie, but just over to you to give us a brief introduction to who you are, how you got here, and what you find most interesting.
Amazing. Thanks, Mike. And thanks so much for having me along. As you can tell by the company name, TikTok is a bit nonsensical. So we're going to have a hell of a ride in the next kind of half an hour, 45 minutes or so. So yeah, as Mike said, I'm Ollie. We started the TikTok agency about 2 years ago, but I'm just going to take you back a little bit to a potted history of how we got here, basically. So as Mike said, we were doing some bits on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram around localized content. So we first launched a community back in 2011, even though I don't look old enough to do that, I appreciate that, but called Birmingham Updates. And Birmingham Updates, if anyone is in the UK and happens to be in Birmingham, hello. But we launched the community. It was all around telling people what was happening in and around the city, basically. So things to do, local news, all that kind of good stuff. We started working with brands on branded content, so local shopping centres, the airport, transport hubs, essentially as a bit of an online publisher, really, but really honing in the world of social. A little thing came along called the pandemic, and a lot of our clients were obviously leisure, retail, hospitality, and unfortunately we lost 95% of our revenue in about a week, which was pretty brutal. But everyone did, so we can't moan. I'm sure there's people in a lot worse situations than me. What we happened to see, funnily enough, was every time you went onto Instagram, every video had a little TikTok watermark floating around. So Instagram basically gave their biggest competitor free advertising for about 12 months without doing anything. So you see TikTok was absolutely exploding. I'll talk in a bit more detail about why I think that was, but essentially we said, this is this looks exciting. We need to get good at it. As we do, we launched our own communities. So again, I'll talk in a little bit more detail, but we now own 4 communities of our own on TikTok that we've grown to about 650,000 followers. And since we obviously worked out what we were doing in that space, we then started offering TikTok services to brands, whether that be organic and paid. And here we are.
Amazing stuff. Thank you. Great intro. Just a little bit of housekeeping as well. I've just seen in the Q&A that a couple of people have said that the chat is disabled. That's not intentional, and we are trying to fix that right now. So thanks so much for bringing that to our attention, and we'll hopefully get that re-enabled so we can hear from you all very soon. You can also introduce yourself. So Ollie, we all lived through that. We all saw that TikTok logo pinging up and dancing around, as you mentioned. But one thing that I noticed from that, particularly earlier on, every time that video was pinging up with a TikTok, it looked like the video wasn't for me. It was basically someone dancing or doing something that I didn't particularly find interesting, although some of the dances are really impressive. And I think that actually in a lot of people's minds, and this is where TikTok almost has been a bit slower to come to commercial use and business use, is because a lot of people think that if we're not selling to dancing teenagers, then actually maybe it's not a platform for us. Can you help me out here? Who is TikTok for? What's the audience of TikTok, and how has that changed over the last year or so?
Yeah, no, great question. And I must admit, if the business was telling people that TikTok isn't an app for kids dancing, I'd be an extremely rich human being. That is basically how I spend my day, all day, every day. So if you go back to pre-TikTok, it was actually an app called Musical.ly. And you'll probably remember that Musical.ly was like a lip syncing kind of karaoke app that was just absolutely loved by 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds. So ByteDance, the Chinese company who own an app called Douyin in China, they obviously saw Musical.ly, saw the potential and bought it basically, and then converted it into TikTok. So the legacy or the initial users of TikTok were obviously legacy Musical.ly users. So what you found was that it was majority was young children, young adults doing lip syncing, music-based trend videos. And ultimately, when you're in lockdown, the brutal reality is there isn't that much to do. So what you started to see was more people jumping on. If someone started a trend, and the obvious one is chucking toilet rolls around, which I still can't get my head around, but it was a big thing that was happening. What we saw was that trend-based content on TikTok was what was really starting to get traction and get views. Now, I will not hide away from the fact that in March 2020, TikTok probably was an app for kids dancing. But if you think 2.5 years on, the fastest growing age demographic on TikTok right now is over 55 years old.
Wow.
An interesting story is so we had the Commonwealth Games here in Birmingham recently, and my stepdad came over to the city to go and watch one of the events. And we went into central Birmingham to see the big mechanical bull, if anyone saw it. And he stood under the bull, and he got his camera in landscape mode, which I laughed at because everything should be portrait, and started doing this. And I was like, what the hell are you doing? He said, oh, it's how you do portrait panoramic. I learned it on TikTok. And I was like,
oh,
a 60-year-old man is teaching me camera tips from something he's seen on TikTok. And I was like, that was the moment that I knew that this had actually cut through now.
That's so amazing. And actually, I think that's really funny. I'm almost laughing at myself there. I think the one value I did get early on was a few camera tricks. I'm sure we've all done that thing where you hold the camera upside down and you swoosh it to make it look dramatic and moving. And I'm a bit of a stickler for misleading facts. So let me just clarify something. 55-plus-year-olds are the fastest growing demographic. Is that by numbers or is that by percentages?
By percentages, because ultimately they're starting from a very low base. So
Yeah.
It is slightly misleading, but it is true.
I'm not calling you out on that there.
No.
Just, in my mind, is that there's 20 teenagers to every 5,000 old people, not old people, older people.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, okay. So showing that growth is moving in that direction, but it's to almost...
So 44% of users on TikTok are over the age of 25.
Wow.
So
okay.
56% are obviously under the age of 25, and that starts from the age of 13. But yeah, 44% are over the age of 25. In the UK, there's 23 million monthly active users. The big thing that gets me is the average watch time of TikTok per day is 85 minutes.
Wow. Do you know how that compares to the other platforms?
I saw something the other day that Instagram is about 30 to 35.
Wow. So that's a crazy difference. And I don't know, we joke about it here in the office that obviously as Hob HQ, we're planning and scheduling for social. We schedule to TikTok. We of course have TikTok accounts, but we occasionally have to delete them when the addiction gets too much. So I'm sure we've all been there. Ollie, I'd love to now just dive in a little bit, and essentially we're here to understand how we can utilize this for business. But I just want to first dive into what is the difference with TikTok, because we're almost approaching this from a marketing perspective like it's a bit of a different beast. As I'm asking you that question, I'm just launching the poll now to get a bit of a sense of who we have in the room and how they use TikTok. So I'll launch that now. We've also changed the setting, which means that people should be able to chat, but we have a slight nervousness that we might need to restart the webinar, which obviously we're not going to do. So if you can't chat right now, I'm very sorry, but do use the Q&A because we can absolutely see what you're saying. So back to you, Ollie. What are the differences between TikTok and the other social platforms that we've grouped together?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. Ultimately, if you think about legacy platforms, like they're dead, they're definitely not dead, but the likes of Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn are generally follower based. So you would opt in to see content from your friends and family, from your favorite creators or influencers, from brands, and ultimately your feed would become a list or a view of content from people that you've chosen to see content from. Now, that can become difficult in terms of discovering new content or new creators, because you have to actively go and search and you don't really know what to search. You don't know who's good, etc., etc. So that is traditionally how the world of social worked. We'll forget about YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels just for the time being. When you think about TikTok, essentially it is almost recommendation media. So the algorithm behind TikTok will recommend content to you, to your For You page, that it thinks you will like. So TikTok essentially knows you better than you know yourself, and it will serve content to you based on things that you're watching, things that you're searching, videos that you're commenting on or engaging or sharing with friends, hashtags that you're engaging with, how long you're viewing content, if you're watching the same video on repeat. And ultimately, every time you go on TikTok, you have got no idea what you're about to see. You could see content from any single creator on TikTok. It could be a video from 3 months ago. It could be a video from literally this morning. But TikTok will serve you content that it thinks you will like. And that is why it's so addictive. When you go on Instagram, you know the first 10, 15 posts that you're going to see, just generally, yeah, I know what I'm going to see here. Whereas TikTok, you have got no idea. And that's why it's so addictive.
And the one thing you can be confident of is that you're going to like it, right? Because
yeah, pretty much.
Know you and they know what other people who are like you have liked. So that.
Do you know the most awkward thing though? The most awkward thing about TikTok is when you first load up your account, because TikTok's got no idea who you are at that point. And this is going to sound really crude, but TikTok basically thinks that men like women with not many clothes on. So the first time you go on TikTok, you are just fed loads of weird videos of people doing clothes transitions and this, that, and the other. So most people see it and just go, surely this isn't for me. But if you give it a chance, like my feed now is full of making Lego, because I'm obsessed with Lego, can't help it. Newcastle United, apologies, any non-football fans, and business tips and comedians. So I basically get a view of those 4 things because I've trained the algorithm to what I like.
Yeah.
And now every time I go on there, I'm learning new stuff. It's funny. I'm entertained. Yeah, it's just really.
As a user, this is obviously great. My version, if I'm bearing all here, Formula One, food, and business tips as well. And actually, that's great for me as a user. But also, this is amazing for us as publishers as well, right? Because essentially, it means that we don't have to go out and find all of these people that might be interested in what we're doing. I guess if we're producing content that actually is really aligned to our message, who we are, what we want to share, can we trust in the algorithm that it will get to the right people, or is that an oversimplification?
Slight oversimplification. I think what you need to do, especially as a brand or a publisher, is go and train the algorithm with what your content is about. So you do that in a couple of ways. The first one is go and engage with people who are creating similar content. So if you are a restaurant, go and engage with really cool foodie creators. If you're a beauty brand, go and engage, like comment on videos of people doing makeup transitions, hair and beauty tips, that kind of thing. So you're essentially signaling to TikTok the type of content that you're interested in. So you do that from your brand account. The second one is always creating content within your niche. Now, where I see the biggest issue that brands jump onto is they will see something trending and they say, oh, it's trending, so I need to jump on it. But what they're not doing is creating content that is super relatable and relevant to their target community. And also using the likes of hashtags consistently does really help the algorithm.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So making sure that, again, you're very consistent, you're very obvious with who the content is for, will help train the algorithm. The algorithm is very intelligent, intuitive. The biggest issue that you'll find is that people are so obsessed with trying to get that viral hit that they'll just jump on loads of creative that isn't right for their community, and then it confuses TikTok as to who this should be for.
Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay, so we've got the big difference between the platform. I've got the results of what people use TikTok for. 36% of people use it to consume entertainment content. So actually, that's cool. We're stealing from Netflix there. 18% of people are using it to consume business content. Only 9% of us are actually creating entertaining content, but 45% of us are creating business content, which is amazing. And there's a strong 27% of people here who just don't use TikTok. So this is really...
It will by the end of this. It will by the end of this.
We'll see, Ollie. We're getting there. We're getting there. So let's move on to TikTok for Business and know what it is. We know that this is a recommendation media rather than a follower-based media. From a business perspective, what can brands actually expect to get out of TikTok?
Yeah, it's a good question. So let's focus on organic for the time being, because we'll come on to paid a little bit later, I believe. So from an organic perspective, which is essentially creating content for your own brand channels. So you create it on a regular basis in the attempt that you grow your account from a follower perspective, but also from a view perspective. And I know, Mike, you've launched your own TikTok recently. You started with 0 followers and your first video got 1,400 views. So that is an indication as to the power of TikTok. So let me just be completely clear here. Everybody will talk about going viral on TikTok because it's sexy, it's fun, and you have the possibility to do it. Just before we started, I was telling you that a video we did for one of our clients got 2.5 million views. But ultimately, is that good? Really, is that good? Like, actually, it's from a really vain perspective and vanity metric. Yeah, okay, we got 2.5 million views, but it's an Indian restaurant in Bristol. Now, there is not 2.5 million people who live in Bristol. So actually, a lot of those views are wasted. So what you really need to focus on from a business perspective is making sure that you're getting relevant views. So that is really careful in terms of, right, who is my audience? What problems do they actually have? And how can I create content that can help solve their problems? Yeah. So we always talk about different content pillars within Nonsensical. First of all, you have, am I trying to be entertaining? Do I want to create content that is relatable to my community, that when my video appears, they go, oh, yeah, that is me. Or, oh, that happened to Jane the other day. Yeah. Or you want to go down the route of education. So people, as I said, if you just literally go on TikTok and search #learn on TikTok, there will be billions of views. So people are actively going on TikTok to solve problems, to learn things. So if your content is being created knowing what your type of audience and community are going to be searching for, creating helpful, educational, informative content to solve those problems is a really powerful way of doing it. Yes, you may not get millions of views, but what you will get is really relevant views for your target audience. And that's a really important thing when it comes to TikTok for Business.
So let's go into that Indian restaurant in Bristol example. I've actually seen the account. It's fantastic. Looking at what, from a client of Nonsensical, what were they hoping to get out of activating TikTok, and what have they been able to get out of it with the success that you've got them so far?
Yeah. No, it's a good question. If anyone looks at the account, it's called Urban Tandoor. It's absolutely hilarious. We really leverage the staff that work there, and they're all amazing. So definitely do go and check it out. So we know, based on surveys and stuff, that 60 to 70% of their client base is from Instagram and TikTok. So people who will go to the restaurant will have seen them on Instagram and TikTok. So the big thing that we had was make us famous. So they went after like the fame metric. And to do that, you have to be pretty wacky, nonsensical, and create content that's truly native to the platform. So achieving those big metrics for Urban Tandoor is like a big win. So they will have people come down from Manchester, from London, from Birmingham saying, I saw you on TikTok and I want to come to your restaurant because it looks amazing. So that was the big win. But we have some clients who are in the B2B space and actually are like, I just want people to know we exist, but we want relevant audiences. And for that, some of our views will get, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 views. But for a fact that the comments are suggesting that it's going to the right type of person, it's to the right audience demographic. And that, in some instances, can be more powerful than getting 2.5 million views on a video.
So just what I find really interesting there is I'm fully with you in the terms of what does your audience want, what problem are they solving, and then how can we create the content to go around it. And realistically, that's not different to how we would approach social strategy on other platforms. It's more just the fact that actually we probably have more of a chance to get it in front of people sooner and faster and have that chance of virality. But how does that work on a per account basis? So as a business, am I better off essentially building up one account that consistently communicates, or actually am I better off leveraging influencers that are great at creating content and I can just get lots of people to do contextual examples and references of us in their own content?
Yeah, great question. So there's two things I think of when it comes to TikTok. I'll cover influencers first, now I'll cover creators second because there's slight nuances. So ultimately, if your strategy is more ROI based, then working with creators who already have a big following will help get your message out there more quickly. So you have two choices when it comes to it. You can either do paid advertising on TikTok and put your brand in front of relevant people by paying TikTok to put your content in people's feeds, or you can go to influencers who already have the community of audience that you're interested in and pay them to create content on your behalf. Yeah, both work absolutely fine. I think influencers are slightly different on TikTok because it's more of an authentic platform. So what you find is the biggest TikTok creator today is a guy called Khaby Lame. He has grown to something like 150 million followers and he's never said a word. Yeah. So if you compare that and the likes of Francis Bourgeois, who did the train spotting, who is now the face of Gucci and Adidas and all that kind of good stuff, creators on TikTok are the ones that are really uniquely creating content that's quite interesting and fun. Now, Instagram influencers, the ones that you generally notice are the ones that lay on Ferraris and have this perfect life, yeah? Which, funny enough, when you go into lockdown, you can't fake your life, which is why that's fallen away. But when it comes to TikTok creators, I call them rather than influencers, it's a case of working with them, but and letting them create. Let them put your product or brand into their content. As soon as someone goes on TikTok and says, hey, I've just been sent this Chili's bottle, it's really good, you should go and buy it, everyone's going to scroll by. So if you are committing to work with creators, i.e. people on TikTok who have a big following, let them do what they do, because they are by far the most creative. They truly understand the kind of authentic nature of TikTok, how to create the perfect video that people are going to engage with, rather than a piece of branded content that everyone's just going to ignore.
Nice. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's really interesting differentiation. I'm really keen to dive into, you touched on paid there. So I'm really keen to actually understand what the paid landscape looks like for TikTok and how that works. But to begin with, I'd just love to go to a question if we can. We will do Q&A at the end, but why not? Why not mix it up? So Patricia has put a question in there. She said she runs a social for a union for economics, lawyers, HR, IT, etc. This is a big question here. How would you approach using TikTok as a union? And if you've got any clarifying questions, we can ask Patricia now and then go to paid, but I suspect maybe this might lead into paid a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Patricia. Interesting. Nothing like being put on the spot to come up with a strategy as you go. But so for me, I would go down the route of actually being more comedic with this. So a lot of content that you see on TikTok is sketch based. And that is where one person basically plays multiple characters. It's a very common style that you see. And I am positive that there will be common traits within those individuals that you talked about in terms of economics, HR law, who that can be really relatable. There is a guy called Rob Mayhew, for anyone who does go on TikTok, definitely check him out. He is basically an agency, works in a marketing agency, and he creates content that is sketch based around particular scenarios that he sees day in, day out working within an agency. And for me, working in an agency, it is so relatable. Every time I see a video, I'm like in hysterics. So for me, I would create something that's totally left field and really think about how can I engage this community by creating content that is really relevant for them. You've got to ask yourself, would a lawyer go on TikTok to solve questions, to solve or to search for their problems? I doubt it. So the only way to do it is to grab it on the entertainment side. And that's where I think about how can you create content that's really relatable. Then you can drop in specific, sorry, my Wi-Fi is a bit dodgy, but I think you're okay. Then you can drop in like really specific, more like tailored messages, but in the sketch style, which I think could be quite interesting. And then, as obviously Mike said, actually working on paid. So paying TikTok to put interesting, informative content in front of your target community is also a really strict key strategy, especially with such a niche audience.
Amazing. That's really interesting and insightful. And actually, what is interesting about that approach is that is really specific and tailored towards TikTok as a platform, because I guess that actually if you're doing marketing for a union on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, you would never approach it in that way because there's almost other ways of doing it. But I think this goes back to the point of, and even just in this room, and you'll notice that there's another poll here, 73% of people here work in social media, 64 are marketing. Obviously there's overlap there. 27% of people are business owners. But actually, the vast majority of us use TikTok for entertainment. And even though we're in the space and we understand it, so this is almost just crossing that, what we're there for as humans on the platform and actually what we can achieve as business. Ollie, talk to me about paid, because we've entered this world of TikTok, and Hopper HQ, obviously, we do all of the planning and the scheduling from an organic perspective. We're actually working increasingly more with TikTok and exploring the paid options. It's quite a fascinating setup. Can you just give us a brief introduction into how TikTok paid works, and also in what scenario would it be useful for a business to start from paid rather than organic?
Yeah. So always you got to think about, what is my goal? If your goal is I need a clear ROI from TikTok and I need it now, then paid is a better way to go. If you believe in building social over the long term, Lounge Underwear, ASOS, Gymshark, some of these communities or client or brands that have built monster communities and now basically build their business off it. If you're committed to long term, organic content creation on TikTok, there is nothing better, purely because the discovery nature of the app. Yeah. If it is, I just need some real quick results, then there is nothing better than paid advertising on TikTok. So ultimately, if you think about Instagram Reel copying, TikTok ads platform has basically copied Meta. When you go into the platform, for those who have done paid advertising, you have your campaign level, which essentially is overriding. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still here. You got me? Yeah, sound. So your kind of campaign level, which essentially is like, what is the overall purpose of the campaign? Do I want people to see my videos from an awareness perspective? Do I want link clicks? Do I want conversion? So again, very similar to Meta. Then you have your ad set level. Now, the big thing I will say is that TikTok's targeting is not as good as Meta right now. So if you think about Meta, you can do postcode level targeting in terms of location. On TikTok, I don't think they know where Oxford is. So you can't just target Oxford. So it's a bit of a problem. So if you're a very location specific business, it's worthwhile seeing what locations they have. So Birmingham, as an example, is a location. Liverpool, yes, but some of the smaller ones they don't have. So when it comes to location-based targeting, it's not as good. And also, if you think in terms of the targeting capabilities in terms of people who like, I don't know, extreme ironing, or all these super niche things that you wouldn't expect, TikTok isn't that good at going that niche. So you're very much more broad when it comes to your targeting. However, the TikTok algorithm is better than Meta's. So even though your targeting in terms of what you can add into the actual ad account setup isn't as powerful, TikTok know you better than you know yourself. So the algorithm is constantly learning. So while you can't be as narrow in terms of the selection of targeting, TikTok's algorithm is actually very good at putting the content in front of the right people. And then when you get to your ad level, that's where you add in your creative. Now, the biggest thing when it comes to creative, when it comes to paid advertising on TikTok, is that unless you've got 250 grand media spend, most of your adverts will appear within the For You page, within someone's feed. Yeah. So if you think about the context of being on TikTok, and we've already talked about a couple of the different videos that we've seen, whether it be sketch based or come with me or unboxing, your video is going to appear after one of those. So think your video could appear after Francis Bourgeois has just done some train spotting. Yeah. So your content needs to be really native to the platform. As soon as it looks like an advert, people will just scroll on. So the creative, you've almost got to think organic first with a call to action at the end, rather than I'm paying to advertise, so I need to make a really clean branded advert that everyone is just going to ignore. So when it comes to TikTok, their whole mantra is don't create ads, create TikToks. Yeah.
So I think that makes so much sense. And actually, I think we were speaking literally earlier on today with a TikTok influencer who uses Hopper. We met her through Hopper. She was saying that actually she does a lot of tie-ups and partnerships with brands that kind of pay her as a creator. She says that now what's become best practice is she's basically just making ads for people, and they actually use the paid platform to select out what content works effectively. So she will post 4 different bits of content, hide them from her feed, the brand will put paid spend behind it, and then they just see how much carry they get from that budget. And then from that, she chooses what one piece of content they use for the media and she posts organically. So it's interesting that they actually, it's not even just the paid algorithm, it's the algorithm that enables you to get more carry on that.
Yeah, the interesting thing there though is I go against that a little bit, because if you're thinking about TikTok, again, you are going to see content from people that you've got no idea who they are. Generally, like anyone can appear on your feed. So I always say, when you're thinking about who is going to be creating content for your brand, yeah, because essentially you're going to need a face or faces of people who are creating content that represent you. Sure. and your company. Go and find creators who are just amazing at TikTok. They're not necessarily big name followers. If you want to use influencers or creators with a big audience, then do that, but make sure they're the ones posting. If you're just creating content for your own channels, as an example, we use acting groups. We put adverts on TikTok that get paid to make TikToks. We now have 52 different presenters that we have on a rolling roster who are just amazing at creating TikToks. They have zero presence themselves, but we know that we can pay them a little bit less because they're not creators. They don't demand, like, I'm an influencer with 100K, so I'm going to charge you 5K for a video. But actually, they're amazing at creating content.
What a great I love that.
Yes, you can save a lot of money that you can put into media spend by finding good people who know how to create content, but don't demand the prices that an influencer would demand.
Love that. I'm keen. I'm conscious of time. We've got about 12 minutes left. So ultimately, we want us to get to firstly, how we get started on TikTok. And I know we've teased into this a little bit. I want to answer the question that we started with, but I'd love to just bring in a couple of questions from the audience. Patricia and Herbert have asked a couple of questions, which are actually probably interlinked. So going to Patricia first, do people enter their job titles when signing up? So for example, could Patricia target lawyers?
So you can target people who have engaged with law hashtags, legal hashtags, that kind of thing.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So you can actually put the hashtags, and so you won't know that they're a lawyer, but you can almost be specific that they're consistently engaging with that content.
Yeah. The other thing you can do, especially on paid, is you can go and find big legal creators. So I know one in Birmingham, she's called Chrissy Wolf, as an example. She has a law-based TikTok account. You can target people based on which creators they've engaged with. Oh, so if you go on TikTok and find loads of big legal creators on your ad platform, you can say, I want to target men and women aged 18 plus or whatever it is who have engaged with this creator.
Fascinating. That's really valuable. I also just want to give a quick update on the poll that I put before. Do you have a TikTok strategy? There's quite a few of us on this webinar. One of us has a TikTok strategy. So if you sheepishly put no, or don't worry, you're not alone. We're all in the same boat here. It is new. We're figuring it out. Good to Herbert's question. So as a realtor, he's interested in reaching a target audience in Houston, Texas. Can you explain a little more about how you can set the target audience? Now, I know you can't set a target audience, but how would you go about narrowing that as much as possible?
Yeah, good question. Again, you have paid. I'm sure Houston will be a location that you can pick. So if you want to go down the more paid angle of trying to get link clicks, views, that kind of thing, then paid is an option. But we also have created local communities on TikTok. So as an example, we run Birmingham updates. We run an account called Best of Bristol. We also run the TikTok account for Birmingham City Council. We run the TikTok account for University Hospital Birmingham. We run an account for a company that just hosts events in Bristol, Manchester, and London. And the way we do it is we create content that is very obviously within those cities. So we'll start, if we've got a presenter, with, hey, Birmingham. And we would always have the hashtag Birmingham UK. So for Houston, I would make sure that your videos are very obviously Houston. So if it was, you're just doing an update on real estate, go and stand somewhere with a really iconic Houston location behind you. I appreciate that Houston's a state, so probably Texas. No, Houston is the capital of Texas. That's right. Yeah. Other way around.
I hope Herbert can forgive us as the Brits on the call here.
Yeah, no, terrible. So a really obvious location within Houston as your backdrop. Again, this is more like generic videos. Make sure that you're using Houston in your hashtags, because that will, again, train TikTok to be like, okay, I know where this is. But also for people who your videos are appearing in their feed, they are instantly recognizable. So I don't want people from London watching my Birmingham content, because I want people from Birmingham to follow Birmingham updates. So if I do something that is inherently Brummy or from Birmingham, then people are more likely to stop and engage with it. So that's the really key thing in terms of localized content on TikTok.
Love that. That's amazing. Anybody, we are going to be going to questions in just a couple of minutes time. So please do put your questions into Q&A. I'm sure you've seen by now, Ollie is doing a very fantastic job of giving very specific answers. So consider this a free consultation as well as an education webinar. So let's talk about how we can actually get started on TikTok. There's only one of us on this call with a strategy, so act like we're getting going. We do actually have some TikTok creators on the call as well, which we've seen in one of the previous polls. So what are the top tips for a business looking to get started on TikTok?
So yeah, good question. So first and foremost, it's your content pillars. So what type of content should you actually be creating? I didn't mention this earlier, but what we've seen is TikTok is bizarrely rivaling Google as a search engine. So a lot more people are now going to TikTok to search for answers. So I went to Paris recently. Yes, Herbert, I know where Paris is, not that I know where Houston is, unfortunately. And I searched things to do in Paris. And I got loads of great ideas that came up, basically. My stepdad with his camera tips, actually, how do I do this? People will start searching in TikTok. So you can go down the kind of educational route if you want to answer those types of questions that people are going to be searching for. You can go down the entertaining route by creating content that is really relatable and engaging to your community. But I think the biggest thing is just making sure you nail your niche. As soon as you start chasing trends or jumping on videos that are just so unnecessary to you and your community, that's when you're going to fail. The next thing is TikToks don't need to be hard. Most people think that video content is difficult to create. The only equipment that our team used is an iPhone and a wireless Rode Go mic. That is it. We edit the majority of our videos either in the TikTok app or in the likes of InShot. So equipment wise, you haven't got to think that this is perfect. And that's a big mindset shift for many marketeers, where you think your branded content needs to be perfect. It doesn't. This is TikTok. The next thing you need to think about is who is going to create your content. So who is the face of your brand? So more often than not, most accounts on TikTok will have a person or a presenter or presenters. Yeah. So you need to go and find either people internally who are comfortable being on camera, or, as I say, finding presenters who can represent your brand and are comfortable and confident creating TikTok videos. Because if you have that, then all of a sudden you have the ability to look and act natural on the platform. You can see it when brands are trying to force people to camera and it doesn't quite work. It's not quite organic. It's a bit awkward. So yeah, finding the right creators and presenters is hugely important when it comes to getting your account up and running.
That's super valuable. And I think that point of it not having to be perfect is almost quite refreshing. And we've seen this on other platforms. I know there was a big kind of shift in what sort of ads worked in Instagram and Facebook quite a few years ago now, where actually ads were better when they were really nice ads. And then a few people started to realize actually we're getting a much better response when we just throw something together. In TikTok, it is a necessity now, right? Isn't it? Because of this whole quick scroll past something that doesn't look and feel native. It's almost quite liberating that we don't have to label our content quite as much. And as you mentioned, sorry, go on.
Sorry, my business partner hates me telling this story, but our biggest video on one of our communities, Endless Pride, got 9.6 million views or something like that. It's one of the communities that we run, all for the LGBT community. And it took 7 minutes to make. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I can see why your business partner doesn't like it.
I know.
It's harder to rack up those billable hours.
Just being honest. Yeah. Yes. 7 minutes, 9.8 million views or something. Mind blowing.
I think that's truly amazing. And I think the thing that's really important, as you're saying, is that authenticity. But from a tooling perspective, I am a bit of a geek internally for tools and apps. And you mentioned I made a TikTok. Believe it or not, it was about my favorite tools. But I also used the TikTok editor for the first time, whereas I used Descript, the editor. I've used like every video editor, and I kind of love playing with it. It blew my mind how good that video editor is. It really is phenomenal. It took a bit of Googling for an old man like myself that has never been on TikTok properly before, but amazing. That's really great. Thank you, Ollie. I just put that poll up. That's giving us a bit of an insight into what active social media platforms people have. 36% of people here are active on TikTok. 82% of people are active on Instagram. 91 on Facebook. That is surprising. That, you know, it's still holding in there. It's doing a good job. Only 36 on Twitter, and similar at 36%, and same amount on LinkedIn, less on YouTube. This breaks my heart. No one in this room is on Pinterest. And it breaks my heart, not as a massive lover of Pinterest, but as the fact that actually Hopper HQ has recently launched Pinterest scheduling as well as TikTok scheduling and a few other things. So hopefully there are still some people that use Pinterest. But what are actually, before we go into that, we've got another question from Georgiana here. Is there any content restriction for age or restricted products that you can or cannot advertise or create content about? She's interested in growing the traffic to the website, which is a vaping company.
Good question. So I know alcohol is a problem. Organically, you can create content around alcohol if the presenter doesn't look underage. So you can get away with it on organic, but you can't do ads. Vaping, I'm not too sure. But I'm happy to share my email address, and if you want 5 minutes, I will ask TikTok directly and let you know. I'm not too sure.
Amazing. So that sounds great.
Yeah.
You can assume that the organic for people that look overage is fine. It's more just on the ads platform.
Yeah. Fun enough, we got an inbound yesterday from a CBD company, and I've put the message out to TikTok already to be like, can you actually do that? I can ask about vaping as well.
Amazing. Love that. Fantastic. So are there any essential do's and don'ts that businesses should bear in mind when we're starting on TikTok? So you've shared some really great insight there, Rob, and forgive me if this is a repeat, but
No, it's good.
what should we do? What shouldn't we do? Any kind of success stories or horror stories that can get our armor on before we continue to go and go forth on TikTok?
Yeah, one of the biggest ones is sign-off process. So if you go on to look at Ryanair, which is an airline based out of Ireland, their TikTok is absolutely hilarious. They have one person in the whole organization that signs off content. Yeah, mind-blowing. TikTok is a fast platform. Yeah, you can either create content that's based on trends, and trends can come around every 24 hours. So I'm sure in our head we're all singing the It's Corn song, which was trending ridiculously recently. So you've got two types of content you can create. One is where you're jumping on trends and making those relevant and relatable to your target community, the audience that you want to engage with. Or there's these proactive videos, which is more original content that is answering questions, entertaining, again, just not necessarily trend-based. If you are jumping on trends, then you need to turn around the content within 24 hours without fail. That is very alien to most companies who have big, long, arduous sign-off processes. So if you are going to go on TikTok, you need to change your sign-off process. You need to think of it as a completely unique and separate platform. The other thing around TikTok, as we've said multiple times, is be authentic. Yeah. The reason why TikTok really exploded is because people on Instagram couldn't fake their life in lockdown. Yeah, you couldn't go to Blackpool Beach and put a ridiculous filter on and pretend you're in the Barbados when you're locked inside. So TikTok just exploded because content was authentic. It was, as Mike said, easy to create. TikTok basically created the world's best video editing platform and gave it to the world for free. Yeah. That means that even though the algorithm is in favor that you are more likely to be discovered by people who have never heard of you before, there are so many creators on the platform, so your competition is much harder. Yeah. So as your competition is much harder, you need to create content on TikTok that is truly authentic and native to the platform. If you go to TikTok with the same mindset of creating really high polished videos that you've been doing on Instagram and Facebook, it will not work. So the biggest rule on TikTok is embrace the platform for what it is and really create content that genuinely works. If you are a user of TikTok, and my problem is I can't enjoy it anymore because every video I watch, I really analyze what it was I watched about it. So I'm like, what was the first 3 seconds? What was the hook? What text did they use? What song did they use? What was the background? What made me stop? Yeah. And then it was like, and how was the pacing? How was the narrative, etc. But if you immerse yourself in the platform, you will understand what content works and what content doesn't. And as a brand, you are no different to any other creator on the platform. So the more you think about behaving like a creator, the better your content will perform.
Amazing. They are some wise words and very easy to follow. One bit I really want to dig into, because I felt like we were almost in gold there. We're creating content. How are you analyzing those TikToks? You spoke about the 3-second hook. You spoke about the text. What should we be putting into? How should we think about creating a TikTok? What structure and things should we be putting in and leaving out?
Yeah, good question. So I had to go on my team the other day and they weren't happy with me because they were asking about a part of the video about 37 seconds in. And I just turned around and said, honestly, I don't care what it looks like. I just want to know what the first 3 seconds look like. That is the fundamental, right?
Wow, okay.
The context of being on TikTok, right? The context is that you've probably walking for a bus. You might be lying in bed before you go to sleep. You might have the telly on in the background. You might be on the loo. Like, this is when people use TikTok, right? So people are there just scrolling, just waiting for that next bit of dopamine or whatever it is, dopamine. And the reality is the first 3 seconds is by far the most important part of your video. So spend a lot of time in being like, what is it about this video that is going to make people watch? And the issue that most marketeers have, and especially videographers, and this is why we don't hire videographers internally, is because they try and, or they've been taught to build like narratives over a short time, build characters. If I see a slow panning drone shot on a TikTok video, I'm out. I'm gone. I'm bored. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You've got to tell me what's in this video and why I should hang around and watch it. So you need high energy. You need to be like, really, here's 5 reasons why you should watch this video. You're like, okay, sound. Tell me what it is. So the hook is by far the most important part. Then what you want to do is make sure that if you have got someone to watch more than 3 seconds, the pacing of your video is really quick. You'll notice that I speak really fast. And that's because I'm so in tune with creating TikTok videos that I'm just so used to speaking this quickly, because I want people to get to the end and I want to get as much information in such a short period of time as possible. So again, when you're watching TikTok videos, you will notice the ones that you watch the most, the ones with really quick cuts and really speak really quickly, have a lot of energy, and the hook at the start was absolutely belting to get you in.
Love that. James has just asked, will the recording be shared afterwards just to rewatch it and get some of the ideas? No, sorry, James, this is it. One time only. No, of course, we'll send the recording after this. And yeah, we can watch it. We can slow Ollie's voice down and get some of the insights out. To that, that's really interesting. As you mentioned, I made a couple of TikToks the other day. The first one did better than the second one. I knew the second one wouldn't be as good because it felt slow as I was editing it. And I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was, but I realized it was just, I couldn't edit it to be any better. It's because the recording was slow and it just didn't quite have that grasp. So I really feel that. We've got a couple of minutes left. We've got one question from Mariana. Is it good to add the trendy music, or should I try a different one? Very specific.
Good question. So if your video is directly based on that trending music, then use it. If not, I would avoid it and find something that just fits whether like to the beat. So the most annoying thing is if you are a user on TikTok, right, and you're actively looking at what is trending. So say, for example, you're on the corn trend, just because it's so fresh in my mind. And I click on the little circle in the bottom corner because I want to go and watch all of the other videos that are created using that sound. And I'm scrolling through and there's some utter gold. And then your video appears, which has got nothing to do with the corn trend, but you've just used that music because you want to hijack it. I'm just like, nah, it's just like, it's bad practice. It's just bad play. So if you are creating content specifically about that trend, absolutely. If not, just find some music that really works to it. Maybe the beat works nicely on your transitions or your cuts and just keeps the flow of the video, basically.
And I guess also if you're getting a lot of scrolls past, so if you're getting those accidental views, but then people are scrolling quickly, that will, I assume, trick the algorithm to think that people aren't interested in the content and you lose all your organic. Amazing. I'm looking very slowly at the Q&A in case anyone's got any other questions. Yes, Patricia, got in there. One last one. Are there any sound copyright restrictions for business accounts as the one Instagram has?
Yes, good question. If you're a business account, so you can either be a creator account or a business account on TikTok, there's 2 options. If you have a business account, you can add a link in your bio immediately. You have to wait till you have 1,000 followers if you're a creator account. However, you can't use commercial sounds. So the song choice and the sound choice is limited if you have a business account. So I didn't say this, and because this recording isn't going to be shared.
It might be. We'll beep this bit out.
No, joking. I would personally set up as a creator account from the get-go. If you're
not restricted.
Yeah, because you can use whatever you want. Just notice if you do want to use, so TikTok has boosting, it's called Spark ads, or if you want to put some spend behind content through TikTok's proper ads, you can't use commercial sounds. So if for a fact that the video will have some spend behind it, you can't use commercial music. If you are a creator account and just creating content for your own channel, then you can use whatever sound. There's no restrictions, basically.
Oh, amazing. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us very near the end. I'm going to send one more poll to you, and you might be able to guess what the question is. TikTok for business. Is it a passing trend or is it a future of social? Before I ask that question to Ollie, I'd just like to thank you all so much for coming today. I've learned heaps and I'm excited to get deeper and deeper into this. We know that TikTok is recommendation media rather than traditional follower-based social media. It's important when we're getting going to always think about who is my audience, what problems do they have, how can my content solve that? And we need to think about these pillars that Ollie's laid out. Do people want to be entertained? Is it relatable community content, or should we focus on education? We really need to think about how we nail our niche and not just follow the trends and diluting the value of our account. Make sure you find the faces of your TikTok, be it you internally, influencers or creators. And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. I feel great about that. It doesn't have to be perfect. We can be fast, we can have quick turnarounds on it, but most importantly, we need to be authentic and make sure that it's all about the hook in that first 3 seconds. Ollie, how was my summary? Did that capture
Perfect.
it?
Yeah, you could have spoke a little bit quicker, but apart from that, it was fine.
I'll make a TikTok of this afterwards. I'll try and beat my 1,400 views on that first video. So I'm going to ask you, and then I'll share the response from the audience. Ollie, I feel like you're slightly biased here, but TikTok for business, is it a passing trend or is it the future of social?
So I think for my business sake, I really hope it's here to stay, even though we will pivot like we have pivoted before. I think that TikTok has reshaped the way people create and consume content. I feel really sorry for the founders of Vine, by the way, because Vine did this ages ago, but it just didn't catch on. You have already seen Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts copy this model, because everybody knows that this is turning more into TV and entertainment rather than seeing what my friends are up to. And the big lesson that I think TikTok has nailed is the authenticity side. And we've seen Be Real grow really quickly recently, the new social media app, because that is purely around authenticity. So TikTok, while the app, I believe, is here to stay, I think the things that it has done with regards to short form video, trends, music, and authenticity will seep into the other platforms as well. So investment in short form video is probably the big takeaway, whether you use TikTok or not.
Amazing. That was less pro TikTok than I thought it would be, but that's...
It's just too obvious, right? It was too obvious to say, yeah, TikTok's here to stay. I just think the learnings from TikTok are so fascinating.
No, they really are. Yeah, you're so right. And I think looking at the audience, unfortunately, everybody else didn't have the option to choose anything other than a passing trend or the future of social. But I can confirm that 22% of people think it's a passing trend, which means 78% of people think it is the future of social. So, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of today's session. I want to give a huge thank you to Mr. Ollie Hills, CEO of Nonsensical Agency, the TikTok agency. We will share this recording and do a follow-up and Ollie's contact details if you want to dive deeper into any of those questions. A huge thank you to all of you for joining today's webinar and staying 3 minutes late. Apologies, I lost track of time there. In 2 weeks, we have another TikTok related webinar. This time we're speaking to a TikTok influencer to try and hear some of the hints, tips and tricks that she's learned by creating and promoting 4 brands on TikTok. So it would be interesting to get that slightly different perspective. We will also send the link for that around, and we are here to stay in the world of social and how you can get the most out of your social media marketing. So if there's any person in particular, any topics, any questions you'd like us to explore in these webinars, let us know. We're always here to build interesting information and content for you. I've been Mike Bander. I'm one of the co-founders here at Hopper HQ. Can we have a at-home round of applause for Ollie for your tremendous answering of questions? Thank you so much, Ollie. And I look forward to seeing you all very soon. Have a lovely day, no matter where you are, and see you at the next one. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mike. Cheers, everyone.
See you. Bye-bye.